Oh, hey, Will, you're here.
I'm here.
What are
I've
you?
teleported to the other seat.
Yeah, because last week you were in London, England.
Yes, I was in London,
Were
England.
you really? Sorry, you
No.
haven't introduced me yet.
This
Ignore
Were
is
you
that.
actually in London?
yes, I was actually in
Okay,
London.
Okay.
introduce me so we can talk about London.
This
So,
is Rachel.
yes.
Hi,
So Rachel from #History Podcast.
that's
Um,
me.
okay, real quick, we'll get to Rachel. But Will spent the last 2 weeks in. First week was France, of course, in show timeline because you appeared on the show in France in Paris,
Wow.
and then you Skyped you called in from London the second week.
Yes.
Did you stay in London for the whole week or did you bounce around England?
It was London the whole time. And
That is so good.
and it wasn't a full week. It was just like 4 days, Tyler. Don't
Okay.
oversell it.
Well, I mean, in terms of the show, where there's 1 week, we do a weekly show. 1 week you were in one city, and then next week you were in a different city.
And the time change was brutal.
Right.
Yes. I went to London in March of this year, which we knew when we went. So we stayed in London for, I think we were there for 8 days. It was like right around a week. And we knew going in March it was going to be brutal weather-wise. It was bloody awful. It was like hailing, but windy too. So the hail was coming sideways at your face. You had to just cut, and people just ran like through the streets because it felt like bullets were falling from the ceiling.
It's like that meme where it's the dog sitting in the house that's on fire, and it's like this is
Yes.
fine. This is fine.
Yeah, this is fine.
Yeah,
This is fine. But I mean, of course, it was amazing. What did you do while you were there, Will?
Sightseeing. When my favorite part was probably going to pubs and
Yes.
drinking beer.
The one thing that I found in London that we don't do it here, we went to a couple pubs and it was like culture shock to me that those pubs are so crowded that I don't know if this happened to you too, Will, but we would be sitting like at a table that could probably seat like 4 people, but Alex and I, my fiance and I would be sitting like across from each other, in two of the seats at maybe a 4-seater table, and some guy would just come up and, you mind if I sit here? And then he just starts eating his dinner like right next to us, like, okay. And that happened at every single pub we went to. Like, I don't know if that's just a thing there that's not here, but they have no what's the word I want? Like, their social norms are not the same as ours. They don't mind sitting at a table with strangers. They didn't care about our conversations. We didn't care about theirs, but we'd be sharing a table with like several random strangers.
Well, I gotta be honest, I do avoid large groups or crowds like the plague. So
I was gonna say.
tried my best to not go anywhere crowded.
I was gonna say my introvert nature is like screaming, like, nah, no, not
Yeah.
not that.
Well, see, and that's our introvert nature, and that's us. I don't know if it's Americans or it's Californians or what it is, but our typical response would be like, no, actually this seat's taken. But we were like, whatever. And all of a sudden there's like 4 random people at our table, completely random, enjoying their own meals, not talking to each other. And we're just, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. It's probably just a prank on Americans that
Ah.
hey, we're just going to sit down at all the Americans' tables and
Then they'll leave. They'll get awkward
You
and
want to
leave.
know the worst thing that I heard while I was there? So we went to a pub. The bartender, he's this pretty cute guy, like redhead with the accent and everything. I go up to the bar, order a drink, and he said, "You're from America, I can tell." I was like, "Yeah, I am." He's like, "You're from Minnesota." And I was like, "Excuse me?
You should have just said
I
yes.
am not from Minnesota." No, I can tell your accent. I was like, "Excuse me?"
You pull out the California driver's license, like, see?
Yeah, no, do not say I have a Minnesotan accent. Thanks a lot, man.
At the the London border, somebody was like, "Hey, are you American?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "California?" Like, yeah. That was a good guess.
Sacramento. He gets
Yes,
increasingly narrow. Like zip
Right.
code 958. Oh, okay, we're done with this conversation.
Yeah, we're done now.
I was shocked how many people were like, "Oh, you're from America? Oh, from California?" And then like,
Funny.
I've heard of California." And then I was like, "Yeah, I'm from Sacramento, California." And it's like, "Oh yeah, I went to like 2 towns over or something." Like, how many people in London know about Sacramento? But I'm
That's
not gonna know
cool.
about like Glasgow or anything like that.
That is cool. Did you get to do the London Eye?
No, it was closed actually.
Oh, what a bummer.
But you did
you see Big Ben?
I went to go see Big Ben, which was under construction.
Yes, it was under construction when we went to. I took a lovely picture. I sent it back to my mom, and I said, "Mom, look, I got to see Big Ben." And I mean, it's completely covered in
Yep, that
scaffolds.
sounds
and...
exactly like what I saw.
I have a theory that Big Ben doesn't exist, and they put up the scaffolds just to mess with people. Oh yeah,
and all these pictures have just been photoshopped all this time.
Exactly. There's people who don't believe the Earth is round, and I don't believe Big Ben exists. I'm a Big Ben denier.
Oh my God.
So Rachel, let's
Yes.
the thing that we should have opened the show with was you have a podcast.
I do.
You and your friend Leah.
Yes.
So I described it to Will as you guys you drink and then you talk about history.
This is correct.
And Will, your response to that was you liked half of those things.
Yeah, I like the first half.
Yeah.
Well, let me plug our podcast here, because what I say to everybody is our podcast is for history nerds and for history haters, because we do our best to make it relatable and super fun and pick really interesting topics. The most encouraging and the biggest compliment we've received from people that I could ever receive about the podcast is, "Hey, you made me interested in this topic in history that I never thought I'd be interested in, anything history related." So Will, I would encourage you, listen to one episode.
All right. Do you have any suggestions on like which episode? If I'm a new listener, I've never heard anything before.
Well, the one I always recommend, it was our first episode. We did a 2-parter. I will say, and Tyler knows this because he's been really helpful with like sound quality stuff. Our first 2 episodes, sound quality wise, are of course the worst because they were our very first ones.
That's everybody's first few, like first 10 episodes or so.
Yeah. So when I recommend like early season ones, I'm also kind of embarrassed because of sound quality. But we opened with a banger. It's the Chappaquiddick incident. So for anyone that doesn't know what Chappaquiddick was, that was the incident back in 1969. Ted Kennedy, so JFK's baby brother, literally when he was almost campaigning for the presidency, he was at a party. He drives his car off a bridge, leaves the car behind, takes off, and he left a woman in his car to die. She died underwater that night. Did not report it until the next day when he was forced to report it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
See, interesting stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's not boring like U.S. president stuff.
One thing I do really like about what you guys do is so a lot of history shows. It's like, all right, so for the first hour of our episode, we will be talking about the background of the Civil War before we actually get to the Civil War, because you need to know all the context. But it's like you guys you're a quick and easy episodes, so it's not like a huge time commitment.
Thank you.
You guys get into the I'll be listening to episodes and then you're like, all right, and we're wrapping up for, you have to listen to part 2 or whatever. And I'm like, oh crap, I was just getting into it. So
thank you. That's a big compliment.
Yeah.
That's one thing I did here. Are you drinking a White Claw?
Hey, there's no laws when you're on the claws.
Well, I'm drinking coffee out of a mug that has Abraham Lincoln's face on it. And that was not planned. So.
Well, based on how much you talk about Abraham Lincoln, that actually does not surprise me.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with him. But to go back to what you said about our episodes being kind of short and succinct, another one of the big compliments I've gotten was someone saying, like, my only complaint about your podcast is it's too short. I'm like, I take that as a compliment.
No, that's good.
You want to hear us talk longer.
You're going to leave them wanting more.
Yeah. And so it has been difficult, like you said, like talking about the Civil War or something. We have done our best to select really narrow, really specific topics. So if we were to talk about the Civil War, we'd have to talk about a specific battle, a specific person, a specific incident, because there is so much.
Right.
It's hard to keep these episodes under like an hour.
But that's really good, because like you could go with Chappaquiddick. You could go, well, that sounds like an interesting story. I'm just going to go skim through the Wikipedia article on it, and then that's it. But if you guys, you dive deeper into that, then that's going to be a more entertaining show for for people because
Yeah,
anybody
we-
can go to Wikipedia. And
Right. We do a lot of thorough research. In particular, the Chappaquiddick episode. I read a 500-page book for that episode, so I don't put that much effort into every episode.
but you were probably going to read that book anyway, right?
Oh, 100%. I had it before we even started the podcast.
So once you get you start getting like budgets and stuff, you buy the books you want to read, and then you say, "Oh, I'm going to do an episode on it," and that's why that's my justification for it.
Yeah, budget-wise, Leah, so my co-host, she's my best friend. She and I have been talking about we need to be making some money off this podcast stuff to afford all the cocktails that we make.
Yeah, that's the one thing. Like because it's like you guys are like, "Oh yeah, we got this thing at the store," and you guys go for you're not like snobs about the alcohol. It's like, oh yeah, this was cheap, so
100%.
So,
yeah.
which I appreciate as a budget drinker.
Half of the alcohol that she and I both have for the episodes. So Leah got married last May.
Mhm.
She ended up having more alcohol left over from, she overbought or just people didn't drink enough at her wedding. I, however, did, but other people didn't pick up on the slack. So a bunch of the alcohol that she's drinking is stuff left over from her wedding. And then I bought like a couple huge bottles of whiskey and such off of her. So I'm drinking her leftover wedding alcohol too.
Tyler, I feel left out. I've never been to a wedding with alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, those are lame.
Especially mine.
I'm sorry.
Your wedding was lame. Well,
yeah. Especially the best man speech.
Hey.
Hey!
Yeah, okay. But I guess it kind of happened unintentionally. But in the spirit of your episodes,
Hey.
Will, you have a drink for at least for Will and I. We didn't send anything to Rachel, but
Yes, I am. A classic alcoholic.
yeah.
So I mean, every day is a drinking day. So I did make Tyler and I a simple little cocktail.
That is very brightly colored.
It's very simple.
Mhm.
It's just
High C soda.
well, it's what is it?
You said-
grapefruit juice
And
Okay.
and vodka.
right. You
Oh,
see,
okay.
you explained it. It was a screwdriver, but instead of orange juice, it's grapefruit.
Yeah.
So
And
Is
also,
this going to be your first time trying it, Tyler?
yes.
This sip? Okay.
Yeah.
and I have one too.
Awesome.
And you know what? I'm not a big grapefruit person, but I think it's good. It doesn't have you had a good mix. Will, good job.
Okay, good. I was also totally eyeballing with
Yeah.
like, the vodka to grapefruit juice.
Which I mean, I like the simple drinks, like I like screwdrivers.
Yeah.
Where I
Yeah.
can just
Screwdrivers and then like apple juice and Fireball is another good simple one.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So kind of how we divvy up stuff on the #history podcast. I do the nerdy history research, and Leah puts together all the cocktails, and those cocktails always align with what our topics are. So, for example, like that Chappaquiddick episode, there is a cocktail called the Rose Kennedy cocktail that she put together for the episode. And my favorite ones are always when it's like 2-ingredient ones, because
Yeah.
then they're cheap. And
Yes.
if I liked it, then I'm making it beyond just our episode. I'll make it that weekend with dinner or something like that.
breakfast. Yeah, the
It's-
usual.
It sounds to me like we need to get Leah on the show.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I need more alcohol in my life.
She's fantastic.
But in the meantime, Will, you can just listen to all the episodes of #history.
Thank you, Tyler. Woo!
So
I'll send you that $20 I owe you.
Perfect.
After I'll Venmo you.
So it looks like the first episode of your show went up in the end of July. So how many months is that, Tyler, that they've been doing this? July to now.
What I mean,
How many months is that?
Why? I guess I'm more just defensive of why are you asking me this question?
Because I want you to do the math so I don't have to think about it.
So July.
And then August.
I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. That's
Okay, September, that's 9.
okay. He's working
Always
this out.
remember that
He's got the fingers. Okay.
All right, so You've been doing it for a good while. So
Yeah.
a good undetermined exact number, but yeah.
have half of your co-hosts given up
Oh,
and stopped
jeez.
showing up?
Oh man, you know what? Very funny. No, but I can understand that feeling. Unrelated to podcast, we have a book club that very much fluctuates in attendance. Very much.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've listened to any of our episodes, Rachel.
I have.
Okay, so yeah, officially we have 4 hosts.
I have, because one other person that's on your podcast has a very similar voice to Will's, or at least I feel like he does. And so there've been maybe you guys
Archer?
are looking at each other. You don't feel that way.
Well, no, I guess for us the voices are going to be very distinct, especially for me
Sure.
because I edit the episodes. I can tell the differences.
I can't
but-
remember who it is, but there've been a couple times where, especially because Will. So some background for everybody. I've known
Yeah,
Tyler and Will for 20 years, I guess. And so the
Yeah.
last time I heard Will's voice, it did not sound like this. And so hearing Will's voice is kind of like new. And
Oh.
so picking it out from whoever the other person is, sometimes your guys' voices, like I had to stop a couple times. Okay, who was saying that again?
It's just the vocal effect I put on to
Yeah.
make me sound like a man.
yeah, I
Here,
can.
you
I'm gonna
go.
turn it off real quick. How you doing, everybody?
You got that auto tune going on.
I don't want any bad notes in this whole podcast. I swear
Oh
to
my
God, Tyler.
God.
I've got all my notes. Yeah.
Oh, that was bad, Tyler. That was a bad.
Okay.
Your notes joke. I
Okay.
was saying bad notes like vocally.
Oh.
You hold up your book of notes.
And I-
It's got sticky notes hanging out of it.
And I thought that was an inside joke that I just don't know
No.
about. So,
Nope, it was just a joke that I didn't get that I initiated.
well, I got you, Will.
But yeah, do we want to play a game?
Yeah, let's play a game.
All right.
I'm
So
nervous.
all right. So we've played this a couple times for the last few weeks, and I gave Rachel a quick rundown on it, but I've got the bigger book of apps, which apparently is bigger than the regular book of apps, but it's a list of apps. Why someone would want to print this out
Right.
is beyond me, but I'll give you guys some choices in terms of categories, and then I'll give you the name of an app. You tell me what that app does, and if you get it correct, you'll get 2 points. If you give me the funniest answer, because the chances of you getting the actual correct answer are pretty slim and are pretty slim. So that's why we have arbitrary point for whichever answer I like the best.
Well, I'm going to
And-
do my best to get the correct answer because I'm not very funny. So I'm not going to
All
get
right.
points for being funny.
I mean, there's strategy to it. You can try to go for the funny improv route and slowly tick off points, or you can try to go for the intelligent, an intelligent way. You may not get as many correct, but you'll get the higher scores. So
And you do have the distinct advantage of Tyler hates it when I win things.
that is also true.
Oh, so I might just get points because I'm not related to him.
Well, the final round is usually worth like 10 points or something crazy. So it just comes down to winning the last round.
All
Yeah,
right.
you're never out of the game.
So none of it matters till the end. That's when the stakes are high.
unless the guest has a huge lead at the beginning, then it's just their 1 point. It's the standard scoring system. But
Got it.
all right, Rachel. So we'll do this in turns, where Rachel will go. I'll give you the 3 categories. I'll let you answer first, and then
Okay.
Will be able to answer after you. And then next round, Will get to answer
Okay.
first. So, so I'll give you 3 random: design, finance, and
Ugh.
organization.
Let's do organization.
All right, and so I've got a couple in here. So your app is called Everplans, all one word.
Everplans is an app for planning your happily ever after. It's a wedding planning app.
Okay,
That's my guess.
I feel like you came out with the answer right at the very end of the explanation, but okay. Will, what does Everplans do?
See, gotcha.
Ever Plans?
Yes.
Okay, Ever Plans is it's a planning app for how it's for when you're gonna be drinking Everclear.
Oh
the,
my god.
The the 95% alcohol by volume drink Everclear.
Okay.
Because you really need to plan that stuff out because it will wreck you.
It just has all of your information in there, like shit I need to know for when I wake back up, like what your name is,
When you wake
where
up,
you live.
when you wake up in the field, here's the GPS. You know.
Mm-hmm. It's it's got like glass shards floating in the bottle
Okay.
to like try and slow you down. Like you actually gotta like.
Is this ice or is this glass?
Yeah.
All right. So neither of you got the correct answer.
No way.
Yeah,
Man, I really
surprise.
felt like I was close.
I mean, you're fairly close. The actual is an end of life document and information organizer. So you were
Oh.
close,
Sounds
I
fun.
think. But
That's
you know,
awful.
end of life, beginning of marriage, same.
So yeah.
So Will
Does
gets the arbitrary point for that round.
That's fine. But I have
Fine.
more questions about this app
Okay.
though. If you're planning your afterlife or your end of life plans, you have to give someone else your password to get into the app at the end, right?
I'm assuming. So all I have here is literally the name of it, and then that it's an end of life document information organizer, and then everplans.com. I'm assuming
I'm just saying that does no one any good.
I'm assuming part of the thing is because like Google has this where you can like, worst case scenario, something happens. If you don't log into your Google account after so many months, and you can set the span, it will say you put in a friend's email or someone you trust email, and they'll have access to your email account.
Got it.
I have that similar thing,
Mhm.
except it's like incriminating documents that I'm holding over people's heads.
Right.
If I get killed,
And it goes to all the
goes
major
to the police.
all the major news sources. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I have always wanted to have one of those of like, oh, if this gets, if I don't log in to reset this timer, it's going to go out to all the news sources, all the newspapers. And
See
then
if-
no one
The
reads
news
news.
agency's like, I don't care. Chuck this in the trash.
All right. Will, let's see. Does this one actually still have one? I have it crossed out, but yeah. Okay. I'm going to do family for Will.
Oh, how
Utilities or reference.
convenient. Well, I gotta go family.
Okay. I kind of figured. So, oh, you know what? I'm sorry. Family is empty. Sorry.
Well, I guess family means nothing to you, Tyler.
Nope. So, what were the things I said? What did I say before? I said reference, which I think that has a cross out on it too, which would be stupid. Okay. So yeah, not reference either. Finance, utilities, or meetings.
Finance utilities, it is.
Okay, finance it is. All right, we have. Oh, and we're gonna do the last one in finance. Where was it? Okay.
No rush, Tyler.
Yeah. No, yeah. Will, your app is Bonic. BOINC. BOINC. All caps, if that helps.
Okay, it's the wait, what was the theme again?
This is finance.
Okay. It's a it's kind of like a fan group
Okay.
for it's for Bono fans trying to finance buying a home, buying a car,
Okay.
or possibly, tour tickets to go see U2
Okay.
or anything of that nature.
Anything Bono related?
Yeah.
Can you get Bono sunglasses with the weird tint?
That's the one thing. The app specifically states if you're going to be a part of the Bono
The Bonic?
fan financing,
The Bonic app? Yeah.
yeah, that you can't. Nobody wears those shades except Bono.
That makes sense.
It's in the terms of service.
All right. So, Rachel, Bonic, what does it do?
When I hear you say Bonic, all I can think of is Bionic. So I'm thinking, and it's a financing app.
Yeah.
Buy Onyx.
you're financing each one of the bionic
Oh,
parts you want to add to your body at some point.
I think that's a pretty solid answer. However, the actual answer we're looking for is a research center that uses the power in your gadgets to fight for academic research.
God,
Wait,
that was
to fight for could you be more dramatic with an app description?
that
It
was going to be my next guess.
It is it's bionic or bonic.berkeley.edu.
Oh, Berkeley, get out of
Berkeley.
here.
Yeah. I'll give the arbitrary point to Rachel on that one for the
Oh,
surprise.
thanks.
The surprise.
It's just because you're his brother, Will.
I'm a fan of crazy sci-fi technology like bionic limbs.
No, I bring up Bono like twice every game, and Tyler just has to cut it out. He's
It
just
gets
tired
old.
of it.
It's been like 3 years. All right, Rachel.
Yes.
We're the game is tied right now. I think this should be this can be our final round.
Okay, pressure's on.
All right, the categories you can choose from are communication, photo, video,
Ooh.
or productivity.
What was the last one?
Productivity.
Let's do the photo video one.
All right. Let me see what we got in photo video.
Us girls like taking pictures and posting them. I might know about this.
Okay. The app is I'm gonna spell it because it's 4 letters and I don't think it's an actual word. VSCO.
Oh, why are you doing
Visco?
that one? You know what the VSCO thing is, right?
No.
It's like a meme going on right now.
Okay, but
I
it's
don't
also an app apparently.
So I didn't. Maybe it originated from an app. I did not know that. But they talk about VSCO girls. That's the
That's what
reference or the meme. Have you guys seen this?
That's what
Wait.
the autocomplete is pulling up.
I think I've heard of VSCO, but I never took the time to figure out what it is.
The term
like-
refers to a
yeah, go ahead.
subculture among members of Generation Z, consisting of teenagers following a certain fashion choice that go along with trends.
So did it start with an app?
Maybe, but there is a VSCO.com that is related to the app.
So I don't know anything about the app, and I know very little about what being a VSCO girl means. But my guess is going to be it's an app where you can Photoshop the shit out of yourself to make yourself look cute.
Okay. William, what do you?
Just changing camera.
Just switching rapidly between all the camera
I
shots.
had
Okay.
to go through every camera angle
Right.
first before I could land
That's
on this one.
so you can find the right Visco angle. Yeah.
Oh, is that how Visco? Is
I
that
don't
how you
know.
say it?
I'm.
See, this shows
This
how
is-
far
this
out
is-
of Generation Z we are.
I was gonna say, like, I'm a millennial. I don't know Generation Z stuff.
Correct.
Okay, Gen Zs. Will, what is the VSCO app do?
The VSCO app, right? VSCO
VSCO.
is the Vinyl Snobs Club only.
Right.
So it's for, wouldn't you guess it, vinyl snobs.
Uh huh.
I love it.
People who only want to listen to music on vinyl. Bunch of losers who think vinyl is still
Okay.
good.
Now you don't have to get so personal with the whole vinyl thing.
Oh, sorry. Rachel, you're not a VSCO, are you?
If I knew what that meant, I'd let you know.
I think Tyler might be a VSCO member.
Apparently, I'm one of the definitions of it. One of the many definitions that we've come up with tonight.
Well, if there was a B in there anywhere, Tyler, you would have known it would have been a Bono
Oh,
reference. But
okay.
That was a good answer.
That was a solid answer.
Yeah.
However, Rachel, I'm pretty sure you got it correct.
Did I actually?
Image editing app with a cult following.
I'd say that's right.
And yeah, actually, there is a bigger description on this one, and it does talk about the term VSCO girl.
Okay, well, Girl Scouts honor, I swear I didn't actually know what the app was. I just knew I had seen that acronym a lot.
Okay. All right. I'm just going to make a note here.
Let me just delete that really quick from my phone.
So, Rachel, you get 2 points for the
Thank
correct
you.
answer. And because I'm impressed that someone got the answer correctly, I'm going to give Rachel the arbitrary point as well. That brings the total, Will, 1 point, and Rachel, 4 points. Congratulations.
Fantastic.
I feel like that was kind of a a misuse of the arbitrary point, but
I think it's the normal standard scoring system.
All right.
Next time when you guys invite #history on again, next time Will's not going to want me to come. He'll just want Leah.
Yeah, that's it.
Where, does she live in California? How far away is this alcohol?
It's just alcohol.
She actually lives probably pretty close to you guys. She's in the Rosemont Rancho area.
Oh.
Okay.
That is close.
that is as close as we're willing to admit that
I
we live.
mean, it's a couple hours away. But
Right.
Yeah, sorry, didn't mean to reveal.
it's okay. No one's watching.
But all right. Well, so yeah, that was our game. Eventually, we'll finish that book, but not in the near future, apparently. So Rachel, I wanted to basically pick your brain on future topics for #history. I was trying to think of funny answers, or funny things I could ask, but I couldn't really think of any funny ones.
Yeah, our history is kind of brutal.
Yeah, it's kind
there
of.
isn't a whole lot of funny stuff.
Yeah, I was trying I'd go for funny, but then just come out like inappropriate.
Hey,
so
remember slavery?
see, so I'm gonna go with I'm gonna try and give serious suggestions.
Okay.
And Will probably chime in with his slavery ones or whatever. Have you? So are you? Tell me if, because you got another season coming.
Yes.
And I'm assuming you have it all planned out perfectly to the T.
Yes.
In the future, are you considering the incident at Daylov Pass?
At Daylov?
Is that it? Daylov?
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's
What is it?
DYATLOV, and I'm gonna give the really short.
Oh, yes.
It's the one. So this is all from my memory, but the people went up in the snow. It's like they were in tents and stuff, and then they were found, like, the tents were ripped open from the inside. There are people who they ran outside. Like, one person had like one shoe on, and no barefoot on the other one. They froze. They froze from hypothermia, but they weren't like. There wasn't like evidence of. It was just they just like showed up dead, basically.
I'm really glad you brought that one up. Yes, it actually is. We have a running master list of future topic ideas, and that one actually is on there.
All right.
And it's just a crazy incident. It happened it's Russia, I believe, right in the 50s.
I mean, the way Daylov is spelled, or however it's pronounced, it does give me Russia. Yeah, 9 Russian hikers.
9, okay. And like you said, their tent was just ripped open, and none of them were actually dressed for weather hiking. It's such a freaking weird incident.
Yeah.
So yes, my plan is to talk about that one and to figure out how to pronounce it before we do that episode.
It's usually good to figure out how to do the pronunciations beforehand. Yeah. However, as you can tell, we just decided I'll wing it. 6 died from hypothermia, while the other 3 showed signs of physical trauma. One had a fractured skull, and then the other 2 had chest fractures.
God.
Yes, and there's some more gruesome things involved, but that's for the future #history episode to cover.
Well, now I'm going to add an extra little mark next to it that it's now gotten an additional suggestion, recommendation.
Okay. So that's always been interesting. The next, Will?
I actually prepared a little something too, but I thought I would play more to my strengths and research alcohol.
Okay. Oh, you're into the alcohol side of this.
So I found some of those, really bad Facebook memes about alcohol.
Okay.
So this one says,
can you show it? No, it's too complicated. Okay, whatever.
I'll just read it.
Okay.
So it says, I used to think drinking was bad for me, so I gave up thinking.
All right. I think we found a new format for #history. So Rachel, The next one I have is the disappearance of Harold Holt. The short version is the Prime Minister of Australia disappeared, and no one knows what happened to him.
What?
He's the in 1967, Harold Holt, the Prime Minister of Australia, disappeared while swimming in the sea.
While he was Prime Minister.
While he was Prime Minister, his body was never discovered. He was eventually declared dead in absentia, because they can't find his body.
They've never found his body.
They've never found his body.
I'm writing this down as we're speaking. I have never heard of that. And
Yeah.
we actually, so we can run, back end analytics for who our listeners and such are.
Right.
And we actually have a pretty high concentration in Australia. So I have wanted to do some kind of Australian history.
It's funny. I didn't hear her writing down when I talked about my joke.
You know what? I missed that one. Damn it!
Oh darn!
It's okay. We'll loop back around.
One of my favorite things that I hope you'll be able to touch on in the episode when it eventually comes out next week,
Tell me.
probably, is the Australian sense of humor. He was commemorated by, among other things, the Harold Holt Memorial Swimming Center.
Stop.
That's
Stop. That's wrong.
that is one of my favorite things about Australians.
That is wrong. But of course, we will talk about that.
All right, Will.
I love that idea.
Will, meme, go.
Okay, I've actually got the. I can. Oh, no, that's the wrong one.
Okay, don't pay attention to the live stream.
Okay, I guess I'll just read it. I had the display thing up, but never mind.
All right,
It's too much work.
Yep. Just say
Okay,
it.
so it says it's got a picture of Monica from Friends, except it's like a drawn style, and she's holding a glass of wine, and she's saying, "My doctor told me to watch my drinking, so I'm off to find a bar with a mirror."
Oh,
Hilarious.
Okay.
Oh,
All right. So my last suggestion is it's called The Money Pit. Not the movie from 1986 starring Tom Hanks. But there's I'm trying to find it but there's basically there's a hole in the ground that was like 200 years ago. These kids found they started digging in the spot and looking for like pirate treasure. They found an actual like a pre-dug pit where so they would find there's like wood laid over the hole, like planks and not necessarily planks, but just timber laid down to cover up the hole. And then they would dig down and be like 7 feet of dirt, and then they'd find another layer of wood.
What?
And it would go and it went down progressively, like the same sequence of dirt for like 7 or 8 feet, and then a set of
wood.
planks. And they also found like the fibers that are on the outside of coconuts. I guess they would use that when they buried treasure, they would put that around it to help protect and insulate the treasure, and they would find layers of that like on top of the wood.
Are they thinking they found treasure?
Yeah, and they found like a stone with these like weird markings on it, and because it's called the Money Pit, because it's never been fully excavated. There was a certain point where they got like 150 feet down, and at a certain point, water started flooding because it's on a little island near the ocean, so water keeps flooding into this thing.
Oh my god!
And so they have to abandon, like, it's like the 1800s. Well, we'll have to come back next year.
That is fascinating.
So people keep pouring money. They've excavated this island. Like currently, it's just covered in holes. And I think now at this point, it's gotten you can't. Somebody owns it, and you have to get like special permits to do it. Nobody's dug there for years.
Do you know where that is?
I'm trying to find it because everything I'm pulling up is the movie Money Pit and
Oak Island Mystery.
Yeah,
Money
that's
Pit.
it. Yeah, so Oak Island, and it's in
Canada.
Yeah, it's in Canada. But yeah, there's this like weird tablet thing so there's definitely something buried there. It's definitely man-made.
I don't believe you.
They've tried to like find where the water is coming in. Like it's almost like designed to flood, like as almost like not like a trap, but a man-made deterrent to stop people from digging it up. They've tried to find the spots, where the water comes in from the outside and like block it off with dynamite. And it still keeps flooding in. They've tried digging giant holes next to that hole and then digging over to cut into where the treasure is. It's this
like
whole
the best
thing for
water
like.
stop they could find was just TNT.
Well, no,
and
they
dynamite.
would stick a thing of dynamite in there and blow it up to cover it in rocks.
Yeah, that's less funny.
But yeah, since the 1700s has been
That is fascinating.
people have tried to find the treasure, the treasure that's in under there. So
That sounds like something to quit your job for and just spend your whole life digging.
people have done that, and
God.
no one has found the treasure yet. So
Okay, never mind. I'll keep my day job.
So those are my three mystery history things that I
I
think
love
you
it.
should cover.
Thank you.
Well, comedy comes in the rule of threes, right? So
Right. Okay.
We're ready.
I gotta do my final one, and I finally got it, so it'll come up in the video. Whoop, bam.
Well, except Rachel's picture's right in the middle of it.
That's fine. It's just this one over here.
Okay.
This right one. It says, okay, first of all, it's got two pictures of a minions.
Yeah.
Which is classic Facebook. Everybody loves that. And it says, alcohol does not make you fat. It makes you lean. Against tables, chairs, floors, walls, and ugly people.
There you go.
That is the best one. Good job with closing it out with that
All right.
one.
All right. Well, we'll probably need to be closing up the show in a minute, but I have one last small topic of discussion. Rachel, what U.S. president would be the worst roommate?
The worst roommate?
Yes.
Probably, I really love that question. Probably Andrew Johnson, and that would be just because I despise him.
Okay.
Andrew Johnson was the president that followed Abraham Lincoln. As you guys know, Lincoln was assassinated, so Andrew Johnson coming in was kind of, I know.
When did
still
my boy
fresh.
Lincoln die?
It's still fresh.
No.
Somebody
But he
check,
was-
is Lincoln Lawyer okay?
Which actually happens to be one of my favorite movies.
All
But-
right.
Anyway, Johnson, he came in right after Lincoln, completely shook up everything that Lincoln fought for and stood
Right.
for and wrecked everything. Why I think he would be the worst, other than the fact that I hate him, he was a drunk who, when he was giving his when he was giving his inaugural speech, kept falling over and slurring his words and drooling and all of that. I think he sounds like a miserable person.
Okay.
He got impeached.
He
Yeah.
did get impeached. You're right.
Yeah.
He did get impeached, which although I hate Andrew Johnson, he's my least favorite president. I do like talking about him. So all this impeachment stuff that's been going on has brought him back into
the public.
So I'm
spotlight,
like,
yeah.
actually, I happen to know a thing or two about that.
I feel like George Washington would be a bit full of himself. I did it perfectly on the first try.
I could have
You
gone
know
for
what?
a third term, but I didn't want to.
Yeah, you might not be wrong, because with the thing with George Washington too, he became president completely. What's the word I want? There was no competition.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
everyone,
unopposed?
all sides, everyone wanted him.
Um,
Can you imagine? I mean, he was treated like a god. They actually struggled trying to figure out what title they would give the president, because they were leaning towards Your Majesty
right,
for George
right.
Washington.
Yeah, instead of Mr. President or.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe he was a snob. I don't know.
My first thought was Taft, because I think he would
Because he was so fat.
he would go through the fridge, and even though if you labeled things as yours, he would go and eat them.
Man, I was way ahead of you. I'm already Googling Taft.
Are you
and-
looking at how huge he was?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it, but the first thing that popped up was
About the
actually
bathtub?
it was the first thing that popped up was just a clothing line called
Oh.
Taft.
Oh, okay,
Oh.
that's cool.
Well, there's this long story about how you guys might know this one. This is fun fact about William Taft. Supposedly it's a urban legend that they had to get rid of the bathtub that was in the White House because he got stuck in it. He was 350 pounds, got stuck in the bathtub. They had to get rid of it and create an extra large size tub for Taft.
He was 350 pounds, apparently.
Oh my god.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, legend has it.
The other one that came to mind was Teddy Roosevelt.
Okay.
I think he'd be, it'd be fun at first, but then he'd be like, you'd bring in like another carcass from his hunting and stuff, so it just like stink up the
That actually
place.
was what I was just gonna say about him. Like you said earlier, reading books for the podcast, or does it go the other way around where I'm just reading the books anyway, and I'll use
It's
them
for the podcast. It's for the
Yeah.
podcast. I swear.
There is a book, I haven't read it yet, but I have a book about Teddy Roosevelt, about him like trailing the Amazon River because he was just a badass. And that was like following his presidency, just some cool stuff that he did. But yeah, he could potentially be obnoxious as well.
It's like, geez, Teddy, another
We've heard
one.
this story.
Yeah, the bullet. Yeah, missed. Hit the book. Jeez. So, but yeah.
Who do you think's the most forgettable president?
Oh, it was that guy.
Oh, there's so many. There's one.
That one. What's his name?
Yeah, ha ha ha.
Tip of my tongue. Tip of my tongue.
It was Obama.
Wait. What?
Who? So
There is.
Sorry, Rachel. Go ahead. Go ahead with your serious answer.
I was just going to say that there was one president that his name's Franklin Pierce. He was the 14th president, and no one ever remembers him. He didn't do anything exciting. He was one of the early guys. The one thing that I remember about him is that his wife and kids, so he became president, his wife and kids are on a train on their way to like stay at the White House, after he's become president, and train wreck, they died.
Oh.
Yeah. That's like, there you go. Now you'll always remember Franklin Pierce.
Oh.
Fun fact.
I guess you kind of did your job if nothing important happened during your
Yeah, like-
presidency.
Oh yeah. We talked about who'd we talk about? Now I can't. It was we talked about Harding, Warren G. Harding, in one of our episodes, and that was something that people actually complimented him on. Which we talked about him in the context of the Teapot Dome scandal. So we talk about him like not being a great guy, but something that people did like about him as a politician was the fact that there's like nothing remarkable to say about his politics. That's sometimes a compliment. Like you didn't rock the boat.
Yeah, you've got you've got no enemies.
There's literally nothing to remember you by. Congratulations. That is an excellent thing.
All right, Tyler,
All right.
do you want to end the show?
I guess we should probably wrap it up in a now.
In and now?
In a now, sure.
Okay.
So Rachel, tell us again where people can find you and the show and all that stuff.
Yeah, so it's the #History Podcast. We are on Instagram at #history_podcast. We're super active on there, and we actually just today posted a little giveaway that we're doing. So if you start following us now, you have potential to win in that giveaway. And then you can find our podcast on any podcast platform you use. We're all over the place: Apple, Google, Spotify, whatever.
Awesome.
And so we're in between seasons right now. We wrapped up season 2 a couple weeks ago. We have a month-long break between seasons. Season 3 starts the first week of February, and this season in particular, I'm super excited about it because it's basically like one of my other one true loves aside from history is true crime stuff.
Mhm.
So season 3 has a lot of true crime stuff where we're basically a true crime podcast disguised as a history podcast this next
Nice.
season. So
I personally like false crime.
oh my god.
Did you hear about that bank heist on the moon?
No, I didn't. Tell me more about it, Tyler.
Well, in 1774.
Oh my god.
All right, so
But, yeah.
it has also been a while on the outro. Sometimes we do RIP.
Oh,
but
okay.
It's been a while since notable people died.
Yeah.
So I thought I would catch us up on some sad notable deaths.
Okay.
Terry Jones, Monty Python actor.
Yeah, he just passed away.
Yeah, that was very sad. Very sad.
Okay. You've done this segment for like a year and a half, probably, maybe even 2 years.
Yes.
I still don't understand why you do it.
just to remember.
Okay.
And,
Okay. But the thing is like the rest of the show, you're like funny. You try to like work in jokes and like be inappropriate, and then you do this thing at the end where it's like, and here's notable people who've died. Rest in peace. And
I like
I'm
to
still
end-
trying to figure out what the gimmick is.
I like to end the show on a down note. Tyler.
Okay. All right.
And
All right.
well,
I'm still skeptical.
it's my one little bit of like genuine
Humanity?
humanity. And the other one, you know, I am a big drumming fan.
Mhm.
I play
Oh,
a
yeah.
little bit, and Neil Peart from
Mhm.
Rush, he died, and that was very sad. He's like one of the greatest drummers of all time. So thought I would just say, you know,
R.I.P.
yeah, I guess he was really rushing off to go to heaven.
There it is.
There
Oh
it is.
my god.
There it is. All right.
And Terry Jones is looking for the Holy Grail.
Oh, okay. The one thing I did, John Cleese did say on Twitter, I think he said something like, 2 down, 4 to go. So at least they poke fun at themselves. But all right, Will, you can go ahead and hit the outro music.
I'll hit it when I'm good and ready,
All right,
Tyler.
I guess we're stuck.
And whenever I find it.
All right, now it's playing.
It's pl-
Yeah,
So, how do you think that went, Tyler?
I think it was good. Is the music playing now?
Yeah, the music's playing right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't be talking over it. Right?
Yeah, we should stop talking over it. You know who the worst president to be roommated with is actually Garfield, because he keeps eating all your lasagna.
Stop it.